This video is an introduction to signed numbers. Whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Those three little dots, they're called an ellipsis, and that's what they mean, so on and so forth. Now the counting numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. We don't count 0 things, we start counting with 1. And so that's called the counting numbers. The counting numbers can also be referred to as natural numbers. An opposite is a number that is the same distance from 0, but on the opposite side of 0. Let's show that on a number line. So if we're talking about the opposite of 2, 2 is 2 units to the right of 0. And if we went 2 units to the left of 0, then we would be talking about 2's opposite. And 2's opposite symbolically is a negative sign, looks like a subtraction sign or a minus sign, and then a 2. And this is read the opposite of 2. So our symbols for an opposite is this negative sign and then the A, and that's read A's opposite. Now a double negative, if we say the opposite of A, a double negative is a positive. And even though we don't always write the positive sign is always assumed. So when we write positive A, we can also write just A and mean the exact same thing. So the reasoning behind the opposite of a negative number being a positive is that the opposite of being 2 units to the left here, right, 2 units left, well, the opposite of that is being 2 units right, which is a positive 2. And so that's where the double negative comes from. But those are the symbols, and you need to begin to be familiar with the symbol for opposite. Now that leads us to what an integer is. An integer is 0, or the counting numbers, or the opposites of counting numbers. So in other words, if I start here with the 0, and then I have the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth that way, but then I'm also talking about their opposites. So on the left side, just like the number line, right, -1, then -2, the opposite of 1, the opposite of 2, -3, and I would go on and so forth in this direction too. And so those are the integers. Now you notice that I didn't say the whole numbers and the opposites because 0 technically does not have an opposite. So 0 has no opposite. So if we say the opposite of 0, there is no such thing as the opposite of 0. It's just 0. 0 is 0. And the reason is that because that's our starting place for defining the opposites, right? It's the distance from 0 this way or this way. And if we go left, then the opposite is on the right, and the right is to the left, and it's based upon that 0. So that's why 0 has no opposite. All right, now let's talk about something else called the absolute value. The absolute value is a distance from 0. So if I talk about the 3 here, if I say the absolute value of 3, that's what that says. Those straight lines mean absolute value. It means how far is it away from 0. So it's 1, 2, 3 units away from 0. Now it's 3 units to the right, but in this case I don't care that it's right or left, it's just 3 units from 0. And because distance is always positive, you'll see that just a positive number. So now if I take that same idea and I say, okay, well, what's the absolute value of -3? The absolute value of -3, well, 3 is still 1, 2, and 3 units away from 0. It's to the left this time, but when I want to know the distance, I don't care which direction I went, it's just 3 units. So think about this as saying, okay, I want to go to San Francisco versus I want to go to San Jose, and we'll say that they're approximately the same distance from our center location. So from our center location, say it's 30 miles to San Jose and it's 30 miles to San Francisco. We'll say San Francisco is north and San Jose is south. Well, do you really care that it's 30 miles north or 30 miles south? Don't you usually just tell somebody it's 30 miles and that's sufficient enough? Well, that's exactly what the absolute value does for us. It says that it's 3 units away. It doesn't matter if it's north or it's south or it's east or it's west, it's just 3 units from that starting location. So the symbols here, those are important. Those straight lines mean the absolute value. All right, applying integers. So if I want to use an integer in the real world, where does it come up? Well, it actually comes up quite often, but we don't always think of them as being an integer. We use English words instead. So if I've overdrawn my checking account by $25, then I might say I have negative $25. And that means that I have less money than 0. That's what that negative means. If I dive 11 feet under the surface of the ocean, I may call that negative 11 feet because the surface of the ocean is the break-even point, the 0 point. If I say I hit 5 under par on a golf course, I may symbolize that with a negative 5 because I am 5 under the amount of strokes that it usually takes someone to hit the ball into the hole. Mount Whitney's elevation above the sea level is approximately 1,400. Now, 1,400 feet. Now we usually just write this as 1,400 and we don't think too much about it, but technically that's positive 1,400. So you see the positive numbers are ones we've dealt with for quite some time, so we're used to those. But these negative numbers, they might be a little bit new to us. Now, by the way, we can split the integers into positive integers, which would be ones with positive signs, and negative integers, those that are the opposite of the positive numbers, and then we can also talk about 0. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to add integers or real numbers. And I'm going to leave this for another short little video, so I'll join you again in a different video.